Welcome back, Dead Ball Dancing. Justin is joining us from one of the saddest places in the world, which is the American East Coast.
It's like dark. It's late. I mean, to be fair, when we do our episodes in Arizona, it's also dark and late, but that's just because of daylight savings. But it feels different out here for sure. It's 21 degrees today. 21.
Ugh.
Yeah.
It was cold. It was cold here today too. It was cloudy, so it was only 71.
Yeah, that is 50 degrees almost. So,
Yeah, I wore my sweater all day because it was
yeah,
chilly.
I can imagine that's probably chilly for an Illinois boy, which I can't believe that I'm saying that out loud right now that you're not used to that. But that's okay. That's all right. How's everything? Let's talk some hoops, man. Let's do it.
Yeah, we had some shake up. Little there's some big numbers. There's some big numbers on this board. Big ups, big downs.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, as a reminder, we have kicked the AP to the curb.
Yep.
So I guess the first thing I wanted to say, Justin, is now without being anchored to any kind of, we'll call it reality. Are we overreacting on some of these? I'm
Well,
looking at Illinois up 12 spots, Oklahoma, Oregon down 10 spots. Are we now too subject to just violent spins here?
and I'm just going to be perfectly honest with you and the viewers. I think the Oklahoma one, I admittedly had them valued too high, right? They were undefeated. They were playing really good basketball. They had some solid wins against some big teams, right? I had them in, I think, my top 8 or top 9. So honestly, you had them, I think, valued a little better. I think at maybe the 15 to 17 spot, I believe. So that 10 slot drop is really myself and Ken Palm. The Oregon one, that's one of the ones that I definitely wanted to get into with you. I think, Oregon sliding 10 spots is appropriate to me. Illinois beat Oregon 64-39 in the second half, Rick. And we keep talking about Big Ten basketball, right? And we talked even about how Oregon was the best Big Ten, we thought, team in football, right? And the Big Ten's a different beast, man, especially in basketball where you start talking about these super defensive, super grind heavy games, right? And I came out of that game wondering if Oregon may not be ready for Big Ten basketball. And I think, as evident by that complete beatdown by Illinois, especially in the paint where Illinois outscored them 50-36, right? And again, that's against a pretty stout Oregon team. I mean, they're going to have to play Purdue. They're going to have to play Wisconsin. They're going to have to play Nebraska, which isn't even in our top 25 yet. That's a very impressive team. So I think we are moving them around a little bit, but there's a couple of these that I really do agree with. I don't know what your thoughts are.
Well, hell, I mean, why don't you just jump into your on notice teams? We'll go to that first. Oregon is one of them.
Yeah. So I'll just start with Oregon straight away. And so since the start of conference play, right, Oregon's average points per game have dropped by 4 points versus prior to conference play, right? While opponent average point per game has increased by 4.5 points per game. And I know that's just one stat. It's nothing that we have to worry about, but a trend's a trend. They've played 3 or 4 different conference games now, and progressively every single one of those conference games, that trend has started to flip, right? So prior to Big Ten play, right, they only let one team shoot over 50% from the field, and that was San Diego State. And since conference play, they've allowed UCLA to shoot 47, Illinois shot 58, and Maryland shot 50. So they've already let teams eclipse that 50% mark twice. So I think Oregon dropping 10 is a bit appropriate for me, and I definitely have them on notice because with the teams and schedule that they have coming up, I'm a little bit concerned about their future. And I don't think that they're going to miss, March Madness by any means. I think there's definitely still a tournament team. They've kind of proven that they are, but they lose a couple more of these Big Ten games, man. And we're going to start talking about, are they going to make the tournament, right? So definitely worried a little bit about Oregon myself.
Well, why don't we stay here on notice? I'll talk Minnesota quickly because Minnesota sucks. They are really bad at basketball. And we're talking about this Big Ten, this top-heavy Big Ten, this
Yep.
Big Ten that has a lot of good teams in it. And for the first time in a very long time, not every Big Ten team is going to make the tournament. Now, in true Big Ten fashion, the tournament format is still one of the stupidest things I've ever seen.
Right. Fair.
The top 9 teams get a bye. The top 4 get the Big Ten double bye, but 15 out of 18 teams will make the tournament.
Right.
Minnesota is probably not going to be one of them. They are 204th in shooting. They are 285th in rebounding.
Yeah.
They are 338th in turnovers.
Oh,
And now they have to play a Big Ten schedule.
yeah.
So Minnesota's on notice for me not because I'm expecting more from them, but you're on notice because you are like 2 losses away from not making the Big Ten tournament.
Yeah.
It's just embarrassing when 15 teams make it in.
I mean, who are the 3 that I agree. And I think Purdue's starting to kind of catch their stride too. So I think they especially made Minnesota look pretty bad. But even then, when you're 338th in turnovers, like, I don't care what the rest of your offensive stats are. Like, you're just not going to win ball games, right? And we'll get into that a little bit later when we go to our game of the week. There's still plenty I want to talk about here before we move on. But yeah, anyone that's bottom tier in turnovers, I think not only won't make their conference tournament, but they were not going to make March Madness either, right? They have no quality wins. So
I would love for USC and Washington to miss the Big Ten tournament in their first year in the Big Ten. That would be ideal.
It would bring a smile. It would bring a genuine smile to my face. I'm okay with UCLA making it. I'm okay with Oregon making it. Like, get some of these Cali teams in the Big Ten tournament. I'm totally fine with that. But yeah, USC and Washington, I have a genuine disdain for. So I would happen to agree with you on that. I'll stick with on notice. I'll go to we'll keep the Big Ten theme rolling before we move on. If I told you that a team beat St. Mary's, Creighton, Indiana, Hawaii, Oregon State, and UCLA, with their only bad loss being to Michigan State, thus far, just based on that, is that a top 25 or a tournament team?
It's definitely a tournament team.
Top 25 debatable. Makes sense.
That's I have it at 27.
Right, and I slid them into 25. And for the viewers, we're talking about Nebraska. I think Rick and I both don't like Nebraska, but we like good basketball, and Nebraska is playing very good basketball right now. They're not going to hang their hats on their offense. They're shooting 46% from the field, 34 from 3, and 77 from the line. They are getting to the line a ton. They have 330 free throw attempts year to date, which I think is about like 17 or 18 a game. So they're really aggressive to the hoop, which I love. I'll get to their defense in a second. Their 330 free throws are 90 more free throws than what they've allowed their opponents. And we talk about discrepancies like that and being able to play some defense without fouling and good, solid Big Ten defense, right? And I think Nebraska has depicted that year to date. Now, this is where it gets really impressive, right? Defensively, they're top 40 in scoring defense in the country. They're number 38, only allowing 64 points a game. They held Creighton to 63 points, Indiana to 68 points, and UCLA, who we have been raving about as a very good team, to 58 points. They're top 20 in country in field goal defense at number 17, and they're only allowing opponents to shoot 38% from the field and 29% from three. To icing on the cake, 50% of their opponent's shots are coming from the three-point range, which means you're not even getting easy layups against this team, regardless of whether or not they might be a little undersized, which they are. I like their opportunities coming up. They got Purdue on Sunday and Iowa, I believe, today. I'm not sure what the score of the Iowa game is. I believe that is either starting at 7 or has already started. I like their chances to go 1-1 there. But if they sneak a win against a Purdue team that is still struggling but catching their stride, they will be firmly within my top 15 to top 20. So impressed with Nebraska, and any scoring defense that's top 50 and field goal defense that's top 20 is going to be a good team, right? So I like their chances for sure.
Yeah, currently sitting 33 in the Ken Palm. They're the 10th best defensive team in the country by Ken Palm ratings. So they're doing what they need to do to get those wins.
Yep. Yep.
I do want to touch really quickly on our game of the week last week. Florida, Kentucky.
We both got
That
that one wrong.
Yeah, and that final score I thought was indicative of the game. It was fair. Clayton lost in that game.
Yeah.
I have never seen such a glaring example of playing for yourself and not for the team. He scored 33 points, and he is the reason they lost. You cannot be a player of the year contender. You cannot be a captain if you are going to be selfish with the ball, not think about the score, and then miss all your free throws on top of it. They were down 8. He decides to take forever with the ball, drives the lane, hits a layup. Now you're down 6. There's 8 seconds left on the clock. And the only reason they were down 8 instead of 6 when they got to stop at the other end was because dude missed both of his free throws. So just that whole sequence for me was just infuriating because he's a guy we've talked about as a really good basketball player, and he is a really good basketball player.
Right.
But the difference between winning that game and being undefeated and what happened was him. His choices he made, whether it's not enough time in the gym, working on his free throws, or just not having enough situational awareness to understand the clock and the score. So I was blown away by that. I missed on Florida real bad. I thought they had this game put away. And even without that sequence at the end, they did not play like the better team the entire way. So
I could not agree with you more. And just continuing with your theme with free throws, man. So they shot 62% as a team, 22 for 35. They lost by 6. That's the game. You shoot 70%, you shoot 75%, game's over. You won. Regardless of all the errors that Clayton made, right? Regardless of kind of the selfish play, right? Make your free throws, and this is we've preached this entire show, right? It's games are going to come down to free throws. You miss them, you lose. That's it, and you're going to get out of our top 25, and you're going to be in trouble in the tournament, right? So, but I think the thing, and you touched on it, right? That bothered me was the selfish basketball that Florida exhibited versus Kentucky. Kentucky's not going to be able to rely on a bench player coming in and dropping 23 points on 7 for 9 from 3-point, which is 80% from 3-point rate. They're not going to win games like that. Hell of a game by, what's that guy's name? Oh, geez. Treya, I believe is what his name was. Hell of a game. Not going to be able to rely on it. But Kentucky had 25 assists to 6 turnovers versus Florida at 16 assists to 10 turnovers. A 10 assist disparity is nuts. Kentucky had 6 guys above 14 points, and a couple of them did it on above 58% from the field. You're that balanced of approach. Kentucky played 10 guys to Florida's 8, right? Kentucky felt deeper, right? They looked consistent. They shot 59% from the field, 48 from 3, and 75 from the line, right? Like we talked about how Florida had to do. And they looked like the better team, which I can't believe I'm saying because of the inconsistencies that they've displayed, year to date. So I came out of the game definitely concerned about Florida's depth and offensive scheme because you can't rely on one player to win you the championship. But also, I'm still on the fence about Kentucky because you can't rely on someone shooting 80% from 3 to win the game. And that's why they won that game, right? So I'm a bit on the fence about where to go with my thought process from there. But I can tell you from my standpoint, it might be a little disrespectful that we don't have Kentucky in our top 25 now. I might have to rethink about that for next week's rankings,
Yeah, they're 19 in Ken Palm, exclusively on their offensive rating.
Yeah.
Yeah, Florida down 5 spots to number 9.
Yep.
So I think that's fair. But yeah, I think you could definitely make an argument for Kentucky, especially over some of the teams in the back half here.
Yeah.
But ultimately, they have not been up to this point a top 25 team. So I don't have a whole lot of heartburn about it, but
Yeah.
I definitely hear what you're saying. And if they come through against this tough SEC schedule, we've been talking about it all season. How if Tennessee loses this game to Florida,
Yeah.
what tonight, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we can
I'm,
see some movement here.
I
Like,
know.
what does it say about Florida?
I'm concerned about Kentucky now because now their wins look freaking good, right? And like a couple of their losses are
Florida is blowing the doors off of Tennessee. It is 58-27 with 7 minutes left.
in the game.
Yeah.
Tennessee has 28 points.
Tennessee has 27 points. It was 34-15 at halftime.
Oh, I would have missed that. I would have missed that. Yeah. Hey, hell of a bounce
Holy
back. Yeah,
crap.
dude, we'll have to talk about that one next week. We can't even get into that now because there's a couple more sleepers I want to talk about on the board real quick before we get to our game of the week. But that's, yeah, unexpected. I mean, I think Tennessee is one of the highest scoring offenses in the country, if I'm not mistaken, and one of the better shooting.
And the last unbeaten.
Yeah, well, that's obviously not, the case. Quickly moving to potentially my favorite conference, the Big 12. West Virginia looks good, man. Like I'm not sure if I had put them on notice or if they just like had two huge wins like so recently that I didn't get a chance to put them on notice. But they're 2-0 against ranked opponents, and I forgot who. Kansas was one of them, right? And I believe Gonzaga was the other one, right? Kansas is in our top 25. Gonzaga is also in our top 25. That's all Ken Palm. That's not us. Still, they're in the top 25. Defensively, 18th in the country in scoring defense, only allowing 62.5 points a game. And that was consistent versus Kansas. I think they only let Kansas score like 66 or 67. So this team can guard you full court. When you shoot the ball, a hand is always in your face. Opponents are averaging only 37% from the field, 27 from three, and they don't foul. They've only allowed 240 free throws year to date, which is like 13 or something a game. People aren't even getting to the double bonus, right? Here's my note. Held Kansas to 38% from the field and 61 points. Kansas can score. We know Kansas can score. We know Kansas can't play defense, but I'm really impressed with the way that West Virginia's been playing. And again, if you have a defense that's inside the top 20, look this up, viewers. Any team that's in that top 20 for scoring defense will be a tournament team and will make a decent run. Not every single one of them is going to move on to the later stages, but I bet you anything, look at the end of the year. Top 20 scoring defense will do you wonders, and West Virginia has depicted it against big-time opponents. So just wanted to give them their flowers real quick before we moved on because they look really
good. Chicago State got a win. So that was kind of I watched that game. It was decent basketball. So there's only 2 schools left that haven't won yet this year.
were they one of them?
They were one of 3. So the only 2 remaining are Alcorn State and Canisius, which might last for a while.
Yeah, because Alcorn sounds so cool too. It's like it just sounds like a cool name.
Outside of that, I was pretty happy with how our top 25 shook out in total. No, not happy to Purdue's back in here, but it is what it is. They're playing good basketball.
They're playing good basketball, and I think a lot of teams dropped out, right? Like I dropped Kansas out of mine. I know you haven't had Kansas in yours for I think a while. And then the only other one that I dropped out was Cincinnati, and we don't need to go into that because you and I saw that game on Saturday for a bit. Losing to Kansas State is unacceptable. Dude, they shot 7 free throws against Kansas State. 7 free throws.
That's just clean. That's just clean defense by Kansas State.
Dude, they fouled 16 times to Kansas State's 8 times. That's absurd. It's Kansas State. It's not even like regular Kansas. And then Arizona, U of A got 27 free throw attempts and made 21 because Cincinnati got handsy in the second half and fouled him 17 times. And again, we keep preaching defense on this show, right? And you can be the best shot defensive team in the country, and that'll win you a lot of games. But second half of these late ball games, your tournament play, right, and your March Madness, you start getting handsy in the second half. Those refs are going to constrict and tighten the way that they're officiating, and they're going to give the other team free throws. And if that team converts, you're going to get bounced. So super unimpressed with Cincinnati after a really good start to the season and some really solid wins. I'm rooting for them personally. I'm hoping that they can make it back with some good quality wins, but Big 12 is not easy, man. So, and they got a tough road coming up. So we'll see how that goes.
One other team I just wanted to call out is Villanova.
Yeah, notice.
Big East looks good.
Mhm.
I mean, we know Marquette and UConn,
Yep.
St. John's.
Yep.
We have a feeling for who they are, but we've beat up on a lot of the Big East teams when we're giving those other teams their flowers because they're not as good.
Right.
And I'm doing some research and I came across Nova, and I don't believe I've seen one of their games yet this year, and I will be correcting that. They are 27th in the country in shooting. They are second in the country in 3-point shooting, and they're 15th in free throws. So they're not scoring as many points as they probably should.
Right.
But they are efficient as hell.
Jeez.
And I'll continue to beat up on the bottom of the Big East. The bottom of the Big East is crap. So Nova shooting like that is going to beat those teams. They're going to beat Seton Hall. They're going to beat DePaul. They're going to beat a really, really bad Butler team.
Yeah.
And they're going to make the tournament on the strength of their shooting.
Yep.
So, if they can hang, if they can continue converting at the rates that they are, and at least hang with the big boys, have a good showing in the Big East tournament, and you're going to be dancing. You're going to be right there. So keep it up, Nova. That's good stuff.
I mean, that's a hell of a freaking. What is their? I want to know what their defensive stats looks like. I'm sure it can't be no.
No. You do not want to see what their defensive stats look like.
It's still shooting like that consistently 14 games into the season that you're gonna win some games. I would love to see them beat UConn, man. I'm telling you. So
they're 7th in offensive rating on KenPom. They're 178th in defense.
It's worrisome, right? They'll get into the tournament, but they're only going to win those games based on the strength of the shooting, right?
Yep.
They're not.
Yep. And that's why, I really want to watch them play because there's got to be just so much good ball movement to get open shots, and then just no defense on the other end at all. They're already setting up for their assist volleys and just letting the other team go down the court and score on them because that's a wild disparity.
That's almost 100 spots or over 100 spots, almost 200 spots. That's nuts. Last thing before we move on, you remember sitting and talking about the Florida loss to Kentucky, right? You said you were going to drop them out of your top 15. Did you do it?
I did. I did not. I have them at 9.
You have it 9. Okay.
And the reason, I'm sorry, they're at 8 for me, ahead of A&M.
What?
And the reason for that is because the more I looked at every single game that wasn't them embarrassing themselves against Kentucky, I still think that they're a top 10 team.
And they just proved it.
And I originally had them at 9, and I flip-flopped them and A&M. Actually really late because I was doing my research for our game of the week. Spoiler. And I thought Florida was the better team. So Florida, A&M, Baylor, Clemson, Texas Tech is that next chunk for me. Gotcha. So I have Florida right behind Marquette. And neutral court, I think I would always have Florida beating Marquette, but I like the body of work from Marquette over a really, really bad loss for Florida. And the rest of the games that they've played. So yeah, I tried to. I started them out, and I ended up with them back inside my top 10.
But I think you nailed it, though. That's the thing. And I don't want to spend too much more time. I promise we'll get to the game of the week. Spoiler. But you nailed it. I mean, they just bounced back and beat by AP terms, right, which we really don't give a crap about, the best team in the country, and our number 2, like badly. So clearly, you saw something there that worked. And I don't know who they're playing for the rest of this week, but I had them at 15, and that will change. I don't think I'm going to put them back in the top 5 quite yet, but they will be within 11-8 for me, no problem.
They play Arkansas on Saturday.
That'd be a good game too. Actually, that'll be a really good game. Okay.
So, game of the week. At least one half of it is A&M. So, if you are an SEC schedule head, there's only 2 places this can go. But
Absolutely.
about Alabama A&M on the 11th of January. Excited for this one. I think this is our first top 10 SEC game of the week matchup.
I think it is. Yep.
We have talked a lot about how good the SEC is, how good these teams are, and how much we want to see them excel at what they do well. And I think this is going to be an awesome offense versus defense game. And I'm really excited for it.
Agreed. And you literally took my whole spiel essentially and put it down into a couple of sentences, because Alabama is one of the best offensive basketball teams in the nation, right? I don't have their rankings, but almost 50% from the field, right? They're taking a ton of free throws. They're getting to the line 19 times a game, right? But they've also relied on that aggression versus teams that might not know how to play just as aggressive defensively, right? I think the interesting stat for me for Alabama, and I don't know what your thoughts are on this, is I've never seen a team in our top 10 yet. I mean, Alabama's here now, that is averaging more turnovers than they are forcing. And that to me is a bit concerning, especially as we talk about A&M, right, and what they can do on the defensive side of the ball. Bama's averaging 13 turnovers a game, and they're only forcing 10 turnovers a game. I'm not saying Bama's a bad defensive team. I'm just saying they're not as aggressive, right? A&M is averaging 10 turnovers a game and forcing 15, generating 18 points off those turnovers. I still think that Alabama has the edge because, honestly, A&M cannot shoot for the life of them. They're only shooting 43% from the field and 32% from the line. But A&M is also holding teams to 38% from the field, 28% from 3, which we know Bama likes to shoot the 3, right? And 74% from the line. So, A&M has a 100 attempt differential between their free throws attempted and what they've allowed opponents. I think it's like 330 to about 226. So I'm not sure which way I'm leaning on this, but A&M has been looking really good. So I want to hear what your thoughts are before we make a prediction. But if I had to say it right now, I'm actually leaning upset.
Yeah, Alabama needs to get downhill fast. The thing about their team, they're phenomenal on offense. Phenomenal, right? But this is probably the best defensive team they're going to play all year. And if Sears and Nelson don't get on the court and get their points and get in a groove, like they need to be converting on their minutes. If they're not averaging their season average on like points per minute, this could get ugly because A&M is just good enough on offense compared to what's a pretty middling Alabama defense.
Yeah,
that they'll put up those points and they shoot at a high clip. So I think for me, the most important piece in this game is that Payne and Washington for A&M, those are the big forwards. They have to do their damn job. Do your job so that the guards can do theirs. Because if they can't create the space that these guards need to shoot, Alabama will steamroll this team. Because you can play great defense. But if you hold Alabama to 65 and you only score 38 points, you lose. You lose
Yeah.
the game, right? I mean, you could have like holding Alabama to 60 would be a god tier
Correct.
defensive performance.
Correct.
But I'm not sure that A&M scores 60 in that scenario because you have to speed the game up so much to do that.
Yeah.
That if you are not converting on a high percentage of your shots on your possessions, it doesn't matter. Alabama will outscore you. You have to limit their possessions. And so for me, it's the forwards. Create that space, get your damn rebounds, let the guards work. And I think there's a chance.
Yeah.
I don't know about upset, but there's a blueprint. There's a way to do this. And A&M is a team that can do it.
Agreed. And I like your call out about the rebounds too, because A&M's averaging a plus 12 margin on the boards this year. So thus far this year, they've showed that they could limit the offensive rebounds that they can let up in a particular game. I think you make a really good point about creating space for the guards too, because the way that I've watched A&M or the games that I've watched A&M, they do have a tendency to get a little stagnant and rely a little too much on pick and roll or pick and pop. And in my eyes, the blueprint for them to win this game is run your sets, tire out a Bama defense that can get lazy, that can get a little bit lackadaisical, and you get them tired on defense. They're not going to want to be explosive on offense. And all of a sudden, with that defensive pressure that you can constrict teams with, I think there is a chance that A&M can go into the half, maybe let's call it up 4 or 5. And if they come out that second half strong and grind them down, I like their chances. So I'm going to go ahead and missed on the last 2 games of the week. I'm 0 for the last 2, listeners. I know you've come to expect better from me. I'm going to make another bold prediction. I'm going to go A&M, and I'm going to go A&M in a close one. 2-3 points.
Yeah, I gotta stick with Bama. I think this is like there's no official lines out yet. My model's been close. I got this Bama 4.5.
Interesting. They got them favored by 4.5. I mean, your model's been good recently. So
yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how it comes out.
Yeah.
I don't know if the books will juice that or not. I don't know where A&M is in the AP poll.
Yeah. Let me check actually real quick. We do that. Oh, 10. They're 10.
Yeah, so it says a big game. Yeah, I don't know. It might be shorter than that, but I like Bama to win and not cover whatever that number ends up being. This is going to be free throws down the stretch.
Yeah, right.
So I think if A&M wins, their best chance is to win by 5 to 8, and just not have to worry about it. But I think it's going to be a good one. I'm excited for this one.
Me too. And I think last point, if it is close going in, to the final couple of minutes, I think the problem is Bama has too many guys that can go get a shot and get a bucket. Nelson and your player of the year candidate Sears, right? And you get those 2 guys, put defender on an island, no matter how good A&M's defensive effort is, right? Those guys can play ball. And I think that's what A&M is lacking. So I hope it doesn't get to that point, but I'm really looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to recapping it next week too.
Justin, if I told you that Florida was shooting 39% from the floor and are up by 28, would it shock you to hear that Tennessee is shooting 20% from the floor and 4 for 29 from 3?
I didn't know that Florida had defense like that. That's the one thing I was concerned about against Kentucky.
Well, I'm going to go back and watch because Florida doesn't have defense like that. So, did Tennessee just go ice cold?
They must have. I mean, I wonder what their best, because they have a player of the year candidate who's averaging like 20 points a game. I forgot what the guy's name is, but
Florida's out rebounding them by 20.
Ew, dude.
I have to watch this game.
I'm going to have to watch that back. I have not been watching it at all.
This box score, check the box score on ESPN when we're done filming. This is insane.
That's nuts. Everyone go.
37 seconds left. It's over. They're up by 30.
Anyways.
Insane.
I'm 0 for the last 2. I'm very sorry, guys. I'm 0 for the last 2. please, everyone, do me a favor. Go in the comments right now. Let me know if you think A&M's got a chance against Bama. I know you guys are going to side with Bama, but I know someone out there. is going to ride with the Aggies.
We might have to do like a Saturday live show where we just watch a game and do live commentary. Because
I'm super down.
Just the way we view basketball is so different. I'm like I can't figure out who would be the straight man, who would be the color commentary, because we can both do both in our own way. It's like I think we'd be a horrible broadcast team because we would never talk about what was actually going on the court. Like
we would just talk about futures and like who should why this team is going to make a deep tournament run. It's so funny,
right?
Yeah. Oh man, we should do a live show at a game. That'd be funny. That'd be fun. It'd be a lot of fun. So,
if you have not yet played Chainlink, you are missing out.
Come on, guys.
It's free to play. It's a great way to tell your friends respectfully, hey, you suck at sports.
And I don't.
And so check it out. Link is in the description for this video, but also chainlink.st. Easy, and free. So check that out. Would be much appreciated.
Don't forget the game of the week outline, though. Don't forget the game of the week outline. Beautiful.
It's beautiful.
Blue. Deadbolt sponsored. Oh.
Let us know if we should do a live stream of a Mac game or a game in maybe like the Colonial. Or if we should do like a real game people actually care about.
If the Bonnies are playing on Saturday, let's do a live stream of the Bonnies.
The fighting Bonnies.
Bonnies, dude. Come on. Please
we'll have to check that out. Check that out.
Absolutely.
No secret third segment this week because we're a little off schedule, off location. So watch for that. Maybe we'll drop you guys something special. But yeah, lots of cool stuff going on. So
I'm really excited. There's a lot of good ranked games this week. I think we had like a few options we could have chose.
Yep.
We got
Michigan, UCLA tonight. It'll be too late for you, but
oh yeah, no, yeah. If you could see it in my eyes, I'm starting to fade already. You know, I'm a grandpa out here, but
East Coast is the worst for sports. That's awful.
Please play Chainlink, and please let us know in the comments if you want to live stream who you think is going to win game of the week, and also throw like a cool mascot in there. Who's your favorite mascot? Throw it in there.
All right. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate you. Justin, before you sign off, Georgia's going to beat Kentucky.
I got Georgia in my top 25. So, yeah, I think so. Wait, tonight? Is that going on right now?
Yeah, right now.
Wait, really?
12 points with 4 minutes left.
I have Georgia at 25. Let's go.
So, hey, I guess the takeaway is like turn on your TV and see what games you can check out. Thank you for joining us, though. We appreciate your time. Second screen us. Maybe second screen us next time.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for tuning in.
Dead ball dancing, guys. See you next week.